Hello and welcome to Everything Foster Care, the podcast that aims to inspire you to become a foster carer in one guise or another. And my guest today is Jenny Molloy, whose writer's name is Hope Daniels. She's written Hackney Child, and it's an amazing book. I can't put it down. I'm going to read you just very quickly the front bit, so you know who we're talking about. At the age of 9, Hope Daniels walked into Stoke Newington police station with her little brothers and asked to be taken into care. Her home life was intolerable. Both of Hope's parents were alcoholics and her mum was a prostitute. The year was 1983. The Daniels children lived in desperate poverty, neglected and barely nourished, hounded by vigilante neighbours and vulnerable to the drunken behaviour of her parents' friends. Hope had to draw on her inner strength. And my God, has she done that? She's no longer in care, clearly, and a mother of her own children. She inspires people throughout social services and looked after children through her own stories. She's written, I think, another 4 books and is writing another 5th, 6th. She's unstoppable, really. So, without further ado, apart from do like, subscribe, and most importantly, share, because we're trying to just inspire people to think about becoming foster carers. There's going to be a website called everythingfostercare.co.uk, probably coming online about Christmas. You can email me at everythingfostercare@outlook.com, and there's a YouTube channel, which is probably where you'll find this at the moment until the website's up and running, called Everything Foster Care at Everything Foster Care on YouTube. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jenny Molloy. Hello, Dr. Jenny Molloy. Is that correct?
It is correct. I don't use the doctor bit
Very open. Oh,
a lot because I find it a little bit embarrassing, if I'm honest. But yeah, it is Dr. Jenny Molloy. It
so
is.
what are you a doctor of? Tell me it's literacy, because, that must be,
It's
that
not.
would
It's
make
not.
sense. Oh,
It's not. No. Well, what it is I'm Dr. H.C. Jenny
okay.
Molloy, and that is because I was given an honorary doctorate by Huddersfield University for my services to vulnerable children and families.
Okay, there you go. So I'm talking to a famous person, clearly. But let's crack on first.
Yep.
The reason I wanted to interview you was initially because I'm a foster carer, as you know, and one of our team, one of our supervising social workers, is kind of obsessed with your first book, Hackney Child.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
so that's Sam Grant. She's our supervising social worker. The book, just for anybody
There
who
it
wants to
is.
see it, there it
Yeah.
is. And so we're only that much far the way through, but it is so engaging, particularly
Oh,
if it
thank
had
you.
anything to do with foster care or social care or children in general, really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
please tell me a little bit about what inspired you to start writing this little book. Say little bit.
Well, I mean, first of all, no one is surprised. So my social workers, when I was in care, I had 2 social workers the whole time I was in care. So 10 years, I had the first one for 7 years and the second one for 3 years. I mean, how lucky was I just to have 2 social workers?
Oh,
So it didn't matter.
yeah.
It didn't matter what placement they put me in. I didn't have to repeat my story time and time and time again to social workers.
Right.
And what I always did though is I always read and wrote. And when I was 13, I wrote. Do you remember Adrian Mole's diary?
Yeah, very much so.
So I wrote the Jenny Darby diary, and I wrote it in
Okay,
this
cool.
the same format, and I took it round to everyone for them to read, and I was really like proud of it. So I always kind of thought about writing my story, and then what happened was that I went into recovery from alcohol addiction,
Right.
and when I went into rehab, what had happened was that when I left care pregnant, and I was so scared that he was going to take my baby that I
Yeah.
just went off the radar. So I
Yeah.
didn't go to
Okay.
any medical appointments. I didn't have any contact with care leaver services. I was 17 at the time. I
Yeah.
went off. I got a little. I was already living in like a privately kind of rented flat,
Yeah.
and it was really easy to disengage from services back then because you just don't turn up for an appointment and they just close you.
Yeah.
So so because of that, I didn't tell anybody. My husband, my kids, my friends, my employers. Nobody knew I'd grown up in the care system at all.
Okay.
And then I went
That must
into
have been so
rehab.
quite something. Walking around with that secret just
I know,
there the whole
no,
time, carrying that around.
exactly, exactly, and which is why I found either drugs or alcohol as the solution to my problems because
Yeah.
it quietened my head down.
Right.
And I was called a functioning addict because I'd got myself a really good career. I had two
Yeah.
beautiful kids. I had a nice home. So actually, it was a big surprise to a lot of people that I had an alcohol addiction. They
So
did
it's
they didn't even
high
know.
functioning alcoholic, isn't it? That's what they call it.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. And that's what I was called. So when I went into rehab, and they said to me, "Tell a bit about yourself," and I said, "Well, actually, I'm going to tell you that I was brought up in care, but you're the first person I've told in like, however many years, 18 years or
Yeah.
whatever." And he said that, basically, you either deal with your childhood and get honest about your childhood and start processing it, or you're going to relapse. And there was
Yeah.
no way I was relapsing. I was so serious about getting into recovery. I did not want this addiction any longer. And so I started talking about it. And then there was a journalist that I met. And I literally just told her I grew up in care because she was talking about it. And she said to me, "There's nowhere in this world I would have thought that you grew up in care." I said, "Well, why? What does someone look like if you brought up in care?"
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, to be honest, to us, to journalists, you look like you're either in prison or you're on Class A drugs or your children have been removed. You're not on any three of those. Let's write your story." So I thought, right, fine. So she's the ghostwriter for the first two books, Morag Livingston.
Yeah. That's
So that's how it
interesting
started.
because I mean that firstly there you are carrying a secret around that causes you an alcohol addiction, um,
Yeah.
but also being from what I've read of the book so far wasn't the best start in life, and your role model was an alcoholic essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Two.
it's no
Two.
surprise,
Yeah.
is it? I guess.
No.
And as a former psychiatric nurse, then
Ah.
oh yeah, did you not know that? Sorry, I was.
No, no, no.
Yeah, I did 15 years in psychiatry and worked doing a little bit of psychotherapy as well for a bit. And
Okay.
so that's why I'm fascinated in people generally.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so you must be a really fairly determined person to have
Yeah.
got from 17 years old, two kids, a
Yep.
career, hiding
Yep.
alcoholism brilliantly,
Yep.
and
Yep.
uh, and then I'm not going to do that anymore. So you make a decision, you stick with it, and that's
Yep.
that. Do
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
it's in no means any comparison, but my wife says I'm a bit like that because I smoked up until I was about 40. So when I said, right, that's it, I'm going to stop. And I just stopped. And
God.
it was difficult. I'm not going to go, oh yeah, it was easy, But to have to stop alcohol, that's a biggie, isn't it? I mean, that's quite a
I
hard
know.
one.
I know. Because you think of all the social situations, all the celebrations, everything is around alcohol.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's on, it's advertised on the TV. Same as gambling. I ended up with a,
Oh,
with a gambling problem, for a couple of years, and every other advert on the radio is about slots, and I think, how on earth are we not allowed to advertise smoking? Rightly so, but we can
yeah.
advertise alcohol and gambling, and it'd be all right.
It is crazy, isn't it? That is really
Yeah,
strange.
yeah.
Um, I recently interviewed another writer, actually, Al Dupre, and he's a children's writer. He's living in Scotland at the moment, and he grew up in care. Um, and one of the things he's talked about was that cut-off moment at 16, I think it's now 18,
Mm,
where all the support just
yeah,
disappears, and it's like the
yeah,
cliff edge that you fall off.
yeah, yeah.
And was that so? That was that. I mean, because I think you elected to hide your past, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas he just didn't want to talk about it. So
No.
he created this shell of sort of almost anger. And when he went to university, he fell in with a lot of people, a lot of friends who said, you don't have to have that shell. You don't have to be angry anymore. And yeah, he still goes around with his friends. He's 64 now, I think, and he still meets up with his friends because he realised
Mhm.
he could talk about actually his childhood, and
Okay.
so it must be, almost a rite of passage somewhere along the line where it becomes okay to say, no, I grew up in care. Because
Yeah.
what are we feared? What were you scared? Well, I mean, you were scared you had your kids taken away, but I mean, I wonder what the
Yeah. Plus,
general thing for most people who leave care, they don't want people to know that they had been in care.
well,
It's
no,
quite,
because there's so much stigma. There's so much
yeah,
stigma behind it. You know, if you ever hear about kids in care in the press, or there's any documentaries, or there's films, I mean, at the moment, I don't know if you've watched it. Have you watched Unbelievable on Netflix?
no,
Oh,
not
you
yet.
must. Oh, you have to watch it. Honestly, you have to watch it. I mean,
Right,
if I say to you, like, it is. I mean, it's based on a true story,
yeah,
and it is so powerful. But you can see why people don't want to admit they've been in care,
right,
and the stigma is that you're either going to be mentally ill, on class A drugs, in prison, an offender,
yeah,
have your own children in the system. There isn't any positivity around the fact that, hang on a minute, you spent 10 years in the care system. It might have been all right.
yeah.
There might have been some really positive times in there. And
Well,
actually,
yeah,
when I think about what my life was like at home before going to care, my worst day in care was a million times better than my best day at home.
right, yeah. Okay, I get
You know,
that. I get that. And you're quite right. But then Al DePrey's a former headmaster. When he was in care, Fatima
yeah,
Whitbread. You know,
yeah,
javelin
yeah,
Olympian.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so it's not a given. I think that it's worth noting that a lot of kids are come to foster care or are in care because their home life was so damaging.
yeah,
Not all kids, clearly, but
yeah.
for a lot of them, that they're yeah, it must be hard to say, yeah, I was in foster care and I'm not that. You know.
Exactly. And also, you don't want to tell, well, I didn't want to tell anyone anything about my background because I was so embarrassed and ashamed
Yeah.
of how my parents were and how I was. I had no idea about trauma back then. I had no idea that, both my parents themselves were raised in the care system. Well, my dad was raised in an orphanage. He was called a foundling, and
Yeah.
I didn't know that what that meant. And what it means is that he was a child, well, a baby who was found on the doorsteps of an orphanage. So
Yeah.
his birthday is the date that they found him. Well, he's dead now, but his
Yeah.
birthday was the date they found him, and and my mum was in the same secure unit as I was at the same age, and I didn't know that any of this till I got my files, and it
Yeah.
crucified me. I mean, what I left care with two ambitions. One, not to end up being a sex worker, and the other, not to end up being like my mum. And when I got the files and I read about my mum and my dad, it didn't bring forgiveness from me towards
No.
them. It just brought more anger because I was like, well, if it happened to you, why did you make it happen to us?
Right.
Whereas the recovery has given me the ability to process all of this stuff and find forgiveness, not so much for my dad. I'm going through the process of my dad now because
Right.
I thought in my mind I blamed my mum for everything,
Yeah.
and I thought that it was all my mum's fault, and my dad was this poor man who was lived his shit life, and if he'd have met a different woman, life would have been very different.
Right.
When actually the reality is that about 6 years ago, I went and found my mum after not being in contact with her for about 20 years. And I just wanted to be friends with her. I wanted her to know that I forgave her and that I wasn't angry with her anymore.
Yeah.
And I found a mum who had stopped drinking. She'd stopped drinking about 5 years before. She'd
Wow.
actually been a sex worker for 40 years.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I was able to build a really beautiful relationship with my mum. She was mad as a box of frogs, like absolutely crazy. And we haven't got time now, but I would love to give you some of the stories about my mum another time.
Oh,
Um, a- and and she died in May, but we was able to talk about her dying.
yeah.
And she kept on saying to me, Jen, because what I was doing, I'm making all the dinners up at home, putting them into containers and putting labels on them, put them in a freezer, and then the carer would come and put them in the. So I wanted her to have a home cooked food every night. So she had a home cooked dinner every night, and she'd say, "Well, I really like your roast potatoes, or I really like your chicken stew." You know, things that we'd never been able to say to each other
Yeah.
before. And
Normal stuff.
normal stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And used to say to me, oh, Jenny, when I die, get me cremated, just throw me in the dustbin. I said, I'm not doing that, Mum. And she
No.
said, don't worry about it, Jen, just throw me away in the dustbin. And I was like, there's no way I'm doing that. And
No.
so when she become really unwell, went into hospital, and I was told that we had either hours or days, but didn't have longer than a week. I went in every day, 8 o'clock in the morning, stayed all day with her, talked about everything you can imagine, made sure she had all of the end of care stuff that that she
End of
could
life care.
have.
Yeah.
That she was being looked after and cozy and warm in her bed, and her skin looked beautiful. And then when she died, I had her cremated, and then I've got a flower box made at the end of my garden, and I've got a big plaque, black granite sign on there saying "Loved and Forgiven" with her name, and I've buried her in her box in that flower box, and I have a lantern with a candle that's going constantly. Each candle lasts 3 days, so every 3 days I light a new candle. So there's always a candle alight, and I've got her now to
Yeah.
protect her. Nothing bad can happen to her. No one can abuse her, because I realised that what she was an abused woman, a
Yeah.
traumatized woman.
Traumatized. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm so lucky that I was able to have the opportunity to forgive her, for her to know that I forgive her, and for us to have a relationship. So yeah,
That's amazing. That is really amazing. I've got to tell you, I'm not a psychiatric nurse anymore.
no.
I've got my own little business where it's a bit random, but I deliver cooking oil to pubs and clubs and restaurants and things.
Yeah,
And
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
I know it's a bit odd, but it allowed me time to bring up my kids and take them to their clubs and their karate and music and dance and all that kind of stuff. And that was great. But when COVID hit,
yeah,
nobody wanted any cooking oil anymore. So I
no.
had to go back to being, I didn't want to retrain, so I became a carer in end of life care.
Oh
And
wow.
for St Helena, just round the corner from us. And podcast that I, the other podcast that I have been doing, and I'm probably going to do the last interview next week, is called Everything End of Life. So,
Oh
and we talk
wow.
about all the things that people find it difficult to talk about, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's interesting. So to hear, your journey, I mean, and that's a remarkable journey because you got closure, you know.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I
Not
did.
everybody does. Yeah.
Yeah, I really believe I did. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love my mum. I never ever thought that I'd say I miss my mum. You know,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
and I do. I miss her. Even though she was, it was a lot. But I do. I miss her. And the thing is that she told me, we had lots of conversations. Well, actually, I interviewed her for book number 4,
Is that
because I
right?
felt that because I felt that she'd never had a voice. No one had ever heard from my mum.
Yeah.
um and she read it, and this is how my mum was. My mum had a serious mental health disorder called Korsakoff, which is wet brain, as you know,
Yeah.
from so brain damage through alcohol. And so she was quite mentally ill for all of my time that I knew her. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that she had that. So once I found that out, it explained the irrational and violent and crazy kind of behaviour that she had.
Yeah.
Um, and but when she wasn't drinking, she was all right most of the time. It
Yeah.
was the drink that made it worse. And oh, why was I saying that? Why was I talking about that? I've
Because
lost my thread.
you were writing her, you
Oh
interviewed
yeah,
her.
that's it. That's it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so this is how she was. So I said to her, Mum, I really don't want you to read this book. It's gonna because I'm worried it's gonna upset you, because this book was about the child sexual exploitation that happened in my teenage years.
Right.
And she said, it won't upset me. Nothing can upset me, Jen. Just bring the book down. It'll be fine. So I said it so many times, Mum, I really don't want you to read it. I really don't want you to be upset. No, I'll be all right. Nothing can upset me no more, Jen. So anyway, so I bought her a copy of the book down, gave her the book. And when I came down next, she went, Jen, I've read the book. Thank you very much. There you go. And I said, is there anything you want to talk about, like from the book? No, no, it's fine. Right, so yeah, I'll have a cup of tea, please, Jen. And that's it. She did not discuss it with me. And
No.
she
Oh,
no,
really?
not no. And she read book one as well.
Yeah.
And she had no questions from that at all. My mum did not have the ability to discuss you know
What went on?
what
What? Yeah.
yeah, the impact on us. But what she was able to do was tell me about her and my dad's relationship. And
Okay.
so some of the stories she told me were so painful to hear that I really have got so much resentment against my dad now that
Right.
I didn't have before because I didn't know. I mean, one of the stories, and this one I talk about so much because I just need to talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. So that in the end, it becomes so boring. That's when it kind of I'll be able to let it go.
Right.
And but
Yeah.
basically, my mum had a regular client, and he wanted to take her on holiday to Blackpool, and she was really excited about this holiday. And my dad, he had to pay my dad whatever my mum would have earned that week, so that he could take her away. And so my dad took the
Right.
money, and then the night before they went away, my dad stamped on her so much that he broke every single rib.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah,
That's right. Because in the first book, he
yeah,
comes across as quite a jolly, from what
I know, I
jolly
know
little character,
exactly.
and that's your memory of that particular time, isn't it? So, and
Exactly. And to find
interestingly, one of
out,
the things we learn when we've been doing foster caring is how children who are a little bit damaged view people around them, and it's different how children who have been well nurtured and supported view
yeah,
them. It's almost they're expecting them to be angry and dangerous, or absolutely smiley and stressed. It's a kind of
yeah,
exaggerated
yeah,
picture of the reality.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
exactly.
really interesting.
And I really, I really felt that my dad was my hero, that, he was,
Yeah,
someone who had just been dealt a real tough hand of cards. Now I don't think that. I know that the way he grew up was the way he grew up, but the way he treated my mum, and I found out from her the very first time that she'd become a sex worker was because my dad had gone out and left her with the baby with no nappies, no milk, no nothing, and so she basically
yeah,
had left the baby in the room because they had a room then. She left the baby in the room and went to the lorry park and offered to have sex with the men in the lorry park, got some money, went and got the milk and nappies, and went back home to baby. And my dad was out getting drunk somewhere. And you
you
think,
know,
God, wow,
yeah,
like, Mum, you're so strong. Like, Mum, you are so amazing. Like, what you sacrificed, your whole
yeah.
life, So
It's
she was
crazy,
an
isn't it?
incredible
How we look
woman.
at people, we sort of judge people a bit sometimes,
Yep,
and think,
totally. Yeah.
but you don't know the story behind the story, you know.
No, no, exactly that. Exactly that. I mean, I admire my mum. My mum is the strongest woman I've ever met in
Yeah,
my
she's
life.
magic. Yeah,
And she was such a character. My partner absolutely loved her. I mean, she would make him laugh so much. She was a right old East Ender. And had never tasted Chinese food or Indian food or any of that. She'd call it foreign muck. Oh no, I can't taste that food, Jen. Get me a bit of pie and mash. So she
yeah.
was very
The
she was
inherent
definitely
racism.
not. Yeah, exactly. exactly. Yeah,
Oh God, I mean that's so. Tell me, so in the first book, I mean, because we're only just reading it now, and as I say, my other
yeah,
half reads it to me because she
yeah.
loves reading anyway. We both got. One of the other things I used to do was run a theatre company, and
Okay.
she used to be on stage as well as a child doing and a bit longer, doing ballet. So we're kind of from that kind of background. Um, but there you are. You're writing this book. You've got this ghostwriter.
Yeah, Morag. Yeah,
Yeah, Maureen. Tell because what I'm doing, I'm listening to this story, and it's like I can't remember naff all about when I was 5, because I mean, we weren't abused, but we moved
no.
around a bit like yourself. I think I had 7 different primary schools,
Oh wow.
and so we got used to getting to know people, losing
Yeah,
people, getting to know people,
yeah,
losing people. You get
yeah,
kind of hyper
yeah,
awareness around. So, listening to your childhood, you've kind of held on to a lot of stuff,
yeah,
memories,
yeah,
and I think that's amazing
yeah,
that
yeah.
you've done that. So, so is that your ghostwriter kind of helping you to explore
Well,
those memories?
a lot of
Oh no,
it's in
because you
my
wrote down a lot, didn't
files.
you, as well?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, and a lot of it's in my files.
right.
So that so I don't know if you've got the bit. Have you got to the bit where my mum set fire to the homeless accommodation we were living in? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I know,
People
I
are not
know.
happy with that. Yeah.
No, exactly. I know. That's in my
Well, over the
files.
chicken, is it?
Yep. Someone nicked the chicken. No, she didn't set it alight because of the chicken.
No, no, that's
She's but at the same place, someone nicked the chicken at the oven. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's it. The same place. But all of that was in my files. You see, so so I remember
Right, because
parts
you
of
kept
it.
it together.
That's right. I remember parts of it. Like I remember the fire. I remember us going to a new bed and breakfast in Finsbury Park. I remember the Indian people upstairs feeding us.
Right.
But other stuff I've filled in through the files because my files go way back before I was born. Because there was actually 6 of us, and 2 babies were taken into care from the hospital, 2 girls before me.
Yeah.
So my files go way back before me. And I was lucky enough that I've got them files.
Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of it is documented in there. So I mean, it
Yeah.
took me 6 months, 1 day a week, 6 months to read my entire files. That's how many there are.
Jings. I mean, we've just had 2 little girls for a year or so, and we love them dearly. But what we did was we took photos of everything, of them going
Lovely.
out, burying each other in the sand, going to a camel park, all this stuff. And I've got 2 teenage girls, as you might know, and they're in the photos with them. It's like the big older sisters, if you like. And that's,
Yeah,
I'm kind of hoping that when they get to an age, they'll be able to look at their files and remember us and
yeah,
remember that they had a
exactly,
great time, all the
exactly
crazy,
that.
weird stuff that uh, we enjoy doing. And
Yeah, no, exactly that. Creating those lovely memories for them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's, so foster care, I think I'd like to say it's very different from when it was back then. There are not enough. And my brother was telling me there
I
was
know.
a program on Radio 4 this morning where
Yeah,
there are foster children in prison because
I
there's
know.
just not
I
places
know.
for them in the community. I mean, this is
That's right.
crazy, isn't it?
It's a crazy situation. It's a crazy situation. The foster carer shortage that we've got in this country is just, there. It's just quite. It's massive, massive,
Mind-boggling.
and
Mind-boggling.
mind-boggling. Yeah. And the thing is that people don't know that they can foster. For example, you don't have to own your own home. You could be renting your house privately. It's fine. You can
Yeah,
foster. You need a bedroom, a bedroom for the child. You don't need to own your home.
yeah,
Sometimes you can still work and foster.
yeah,
There are so many different myths around fostering that
yeah,
we need to get out there so that people know that they could put the possibility of them fostering. And for me, my foster dad has just died last year. I still can't bear to look at his photos. But my foster mum's still alive, and she lives just up the road, and her name's
Yeah.
Audrey Hepburn.
No,
And
it's
yeah, but instead of calling her Audrey, I called her Dord, and so I still call her Dord now. And but when
yeah,
I ended up in hospital, I ended up being section myself. I had a real breakdown 3 years ago, and who was there? Dord and John.
yeah,
Straight away. As soon as I have any problems, who are there? Dord and John. And I wouldn't be the person I am today without still having my social workers in my life all the way
yeah.
through, and my foster mum and dad. I but
The-
people who don't have that, you know, they've got no one, and it's just too
Heartbreaking.
difficult to. It's heartbreaking. Lifelong links with people that were special to you in your childhood is absolutely vital to you becoming successful as an adult.
Yeah. Or is just being able to live with yourself, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally.
and that, when you can accept yourself, be comfortable in your own skin, then you're not going to have all these other psychological problems. But that
That's right.
whole thing starts from support from people around you, doesn't it? So,
Yeah,
and it must be,
yeah,
it can be difficult, I think, for people to support some kids who've got some behaviour that can be a little bit challenging. Not
yeah,
all kids, not all kids have got challenging behaviour. Some do, some don't. Um,
yeah.
but if the more foster carers we have, the more you can match the right kids with the right
That's right.
families.
That's
As
right.
far as I can see.
That's
And
right.
I think we're short 6,000 foster families in this country.
At
That's
least.
mind-boggling, as you say. 10,000 kids in care and other
Yeah,
places.
yeah.
That's just So yeah, and I love that you're reminding us that you don't need to own your own home, and you
No,
don't, you know. But I think you need to have a bit of a good heart and get on with kids. And I tell you, the
right.
other thing is, I never really thought about fostering up until about a few years ago. We had a lovely Ukrainian woman come stay with us at the beginning of the Ukraine war, and her little kid. And we kind of, when they left, we kind of thought, well, even before then, we thought, well, somebody mentioned you could do fostering. We thought, well, give it a go. We didn't actually know that you get paid, so that was you also get paid. So it's not,
That's good though. That's
yeah.
perfect because you did it for the right reasons.
Well,
You
yeah,
you know you
yeah.
you
I think
found
for
out that
me,
you'd be given an allowance which would make it possible, but you didn't
yeah.
realise about the allowance. You did it because of your heart,
No,
and that's the right way round. I can't stand adverts which start with, "Do you want to be a foster carer? You will get paid such and such." Don't have that as the
yeah.
last line, first line. Have that as the last line, because
That's
the
the last
first thing
line,
you
yeah.
need, is compassion and kindness and love for kids.
Yeah, because all those people who are reading that as the last line, uh, they'll have an interest. They'll want to be reading the rest.
Exactly,
Ooh, you know, not hens.
exactly.
Hens you get paid. God, blimey.
Exactly. And you can get paid, which means you don't have to work full time. We want you
Yeah,
to have time with the kids. So we're going to give you an allowance to make that happen. And
yeah,
so, I any campaigns that are going on, if it says the first line says you get paid, I switch straight off.
yeah.
Straight
It's
off.
a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, so just so you know what the reason I'm doing this is one because I'm just generally outraged at the lack of foster carers. Uh, because in any society you're going to get kids that are not able to live with their parents,
That's right.
and
That's right.
for whatever reason. Um,
Yeah.
but the way I'm hoping this will spread is if we can put this on everybody's social media.
Yeah.
So I will do little snippets. Did I send
Yeah.
you a little clip of me as a baby, animated?
No. I don't know. I don't
I'll
know.
send you that. I'll send you that.
All right.
It's
All right.
it's yeah, it's stuff that you can do, which is quite engaging with of my editing suite, Riverside. And if it hasn't recorded your voice, I'll tell you all this again in about a month's time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what we're trying to do is to find new audiences to spread that message. You know,
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
because one of the things I've noticed that and all with good intention, like you'll have Chelmsford County Council saying we're putting on an event where you can find out more about fostering and etc. etc. Well, 10 years ago, I'd have just looked at that and gone, well, it's not for me, you know,
Yeah,
because I knew
yeah,
nothing about it, you know.
exactly.
So I think trying to spread what fostering is all about, going to people rather than expecting them to come to you, is
Yeah,
probably definitely a way forward to go. So yeah. So having your books is a real bonus because from time to time I can just say, "Oh, have you read this book, by the way? This is what it's it's not everybody's childhood, but here's one."
yeah. Here's one exactly. I've got 2 minutes before I need to go into a meeting,
No problem.
so we
It's,
need to wrap
it's
up, Jason.
absolutely
Oh, it's
brilliant.
David. Are you Jason or
Yeah, it's
David?
Jason. I know it says David Jason on
Right.
my stuff, but
Yeah.
basically my parents decided on Jason David, but my mum was busy when they came to go to the registry office, and there was a pub on the way to the registry office, and my dad got one too many and got it wrong, so they still call me Jason. Yeah, I know. What can you do?
How
So
funny.
it would be brilliant if I could come back to you in a couple of months or so and
Yeah.
have another chat and explore more about the actual books themselves. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Have a read of the books. Come back. We'll do part two.
That'd be brilliant. If you could, I'm just gonna say once again, not Dr. Jenny Molloy. Thank you so much for the interview. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
and we'll have another revisit at a later date.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to it.